Welcome back to the 21st briefing. This is our legislative calendar preview for New Jersey for the week of May 11th through May 15th. And I actually just said all of this, didn't have my mic on. Anyway, we're going to go through it again. So, according to the calendar, most of the stuff that's going to happen this week lands on Monday and Thursday. Rest of the week looks pretty empty for now. That can change. Biggest things we're watching are a set of bills that are going to move shifting and housing away from towns to the state, a big change in how New Jersey funds special ed, and a hearing at the Labor Department's new ABC test regulations. There's also going to be a big hearing on the Department of Ed and School Development Authority. So let's get started. May 11th, Senate Community and Urban Affairs meets at 10 a.m. Cluster of important bills. S1786 deals with ADUs, which would allow single family homes, two family homes to set up things like basement apartments, garage apartments without having to go through planning board or township, uh, you know, sort of due diligence that it has to now. All a planning board would be allowed to do or town would be allowed to do is to check whether whoever wants to set that up meets the bill's requirements. So if this passes, towns would have 60 days to act on the application, and if they don't, the application's approved. And the towns cannot use local ordinances or policies to delay or deny an ADU, can't require a homeowner to fix an unrelated non-conforming zoning issue, can't require, if the ADU's inside, they can't require a separate utility connection. Generally, they can't or a separate, they can't charge for a separate connection fee. Some limits, no short-term rentals under 30 days, 5-foot minimum setback, height limits tied to the main dwelling. And if there's not enough sewer or water service, they can reject it. But the bill, the argument is that this is going to create a pathway for more affordable housing that doesn't lead to a lot of development. This is a way of giving people an option that doesn't require, environmental consequences to the extent that maybe, a pilot might or a high density complex might. The argument against it is that it's going to reduce towns' discretion over how these units are going to fit into their neighborhoods, because the bill is designed to prevent that. It's designed to prevent towns from using their normal process to slow or block these down. Another bill is S1836, also worth paying attention to because it would give religious organizations and tax-exempt nonprofits a way to convert property that they're not using or underusing into housing. And it would make housing a permitted use as long as 20% of the units are reserved as affordable housing. Now, of that 20%, at least half of that 20% needs to be low income. 13% of the low income would have to be very low income. Now, the bill also allows projects on these properties at 40 units an acre and 1 story above the height they would otherwise be allowed in the zoning district. And if an adjoining property is allowed more density or height, that project could use that higher standard instead. It basically says the municipal planning board has to approve the application if it complies with the bill, just like we saw with ADUs. Now, the sticking point for a lot of people is going to be that these projects are going to be actually allowed or eligible for long-term tax exemptions under the pilot law, which a lot of folks feel are already hurting school districts throughout the state because school districts don't get those tax dollars. So the argument for this is that, hey, listen, there's all this unused land that churches and nonprofits have that they could turn into housing to help solve the Jersey housing pricing issue. But a lot of folks are going to say, look, this bill doesn't just encourage housing, it gives these projects like a fast lane to higher density, pilot treatment, and ties local municipalities' hands. So the New Jersey League of Municipalities has already come out against this thing on the grounds that it bypasses local planning. Another bill on the same agenda, S1766, kind of the same thing. authorizes office parks, retail centers into MUDs, mixed use developments. Same thing. Take underused property, make it easier to turn it into housing and other stuff. Uh, Same argument. Supporters see it as a way to reuse obsolete commercial space. Governments worry that there's going to be more routes for development in some communities that are already feeling a lot of strain. Two more development bills, S1659. This would require permit applications to have the amount of financing and the source of financing for the project. Puts it right into the permit application itself. Creates transparency as to who's backing it, how it's going to be funded. Developers aren't going to like it, A, because it's another disclosure requirement, and B, it puts, their money right on paper for everybody to see. S3174, another bill lets owners and other parties that are responsible contract with private on-site inspection agencies in case a township gets backlogged on its inspection. So if a town can't get to an inspection in a timely manner because it's so behind, this would allow a contractor to just pay someone privately to complete it. The obvious concern with that is that construction code inspections are public safety functions, and that's going to move that work outside of the purview of townships and into the hands of private entities. So, moving on to education now. Special education funding is a big one. Senate Education Committee meets at 11. S1767 is going to tackle or look at, should New Jersey continue to use a census-based formula that might leave a district that has way more special ed students than what that formula assumes, and hurts them by making them swallowing costs that their aid isn't equipped to, doesn't build that in, and move more to a system of aid that actually that looks at the actual number of students a district has. Because again, the current formula is going to leave districts with above average special ed needs carrying costs that's just not reflected in their aid. It's going to make funding more honest. The downside, obviously, is anytime you move away from a formula, there's going to be sort of ripple effects or tremors in the adjustment period. Labor, the ABC test. This is not a bill. The rules are already adopted. This is about hearing testimony on the impact of those rule changes. So, what happened is that the Department of Labor has been sort of working on trying to change or look at how are we defining independent contractors. A lot of folks are really concerned about the rule changes because they feel it's going to really hamper that sort of labor market. And so this is something that's going to affect businesses, freelancers, gig workers. There's going to be sort of enforcement changes under wage and unemployment laws. Again, these regs are already adopted. This is just a way for legislators to hear what this means and how this is going to be applied. There are two labor bills on the agenda, two more, S2136. This deals with ghost jobs, and this is going to require employers to say whether the posting is for an existing position and would disallow posting for a job that an employer doesn't intend to fill. It also would require listing the expected opening date for the job and the anticipated start date. Again, aimed at sort of ghost jobs, where folks spend time applying for jobs that may not really exist. Benefit is transparency for job seekers. Don't see a trade-off there. S3564 would establish the New Jersey Private Contractor Registration Act. This would prohibit or prevent contractors and subcontractors from doing private construction work unless they're registered with the DOL. And the application would require identifying info, workers' comp coverage, unemployment and temporary disability account numbers, all the business details. and a commissioner could deny, revoke the registration if there's violations. It would create penalties for working without a registration. And the argument, obviously, is that it gives the state a better way of tracking contractors, a better way to enforce labor laws. The downside, people will argue, is that it adds yet another system, another burden for smaller contractors, and it might stunt employment and growth. That's all on Monday. That's a full day. Going to Thursday is a big hearing, Senate Budget and Appropriations with the Department of Ed and School Development Authority. And this is going to be about pressing the Department of Ed on the actual money, school aid, special ed costs, facilities, construction. How is the state budgeting for its obligations? Moving away from education, we're going to go to algorithmic pricing, assembly commerce, and economic development bill, basically saying you cannot use what personal data that you get from a consumer to set prices. Two different people shouldn't be getting two different prices based on what you know about them. It's called surveillance pricing. Now, businesses have a little bit of a legitimate argument in saying that, look, you can't take this too far. There's discounts, loyalty offers. There are some things that there are some cases where different pricing for different customers makes sense. I think we can all agree to that. But I think the intent here is really to sort of tackle this sort of granular research on a consumer, so that you get to sort of a price point. So that's it. It's the housing package. It's the special education aid. It's the ABC test hearing. It's a DOE budget hearing. I mean, there is a lot, and it's all big. See you guys next week. Have a good one.